All right, guys. So I'm here with Greg Martin of 20 Pegs. And Greg, could you just give us a little bit of an introduction to you, where you're based, and a bit of background, what you specialize in, and that kind of thing? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Greg. I sort of go under the pseudonym and sort of overall banner of 20 Pegs. So I'm an artist and graphic designer based in London. I sort of split my time probably 80% doing commercial, like corporate graphic design, largely in the healthcare industry. So I do a lot of work with agencies that work with pharmaceutical companies or charities and like patient support groups and health board kind of stuff as well. And I've kind of been doing some stuff recently with some sort of NHS offshoots as well. So yeah, but all within my graphic design work all kind of exists within the healthcare industry.
Wicked. Oh, cool. And could you just give us, so when we first met, which was back in, I think, July or August last year, 2020, just the kind of situation you were in at that point, and just kind of where you're at business-wise and what was going on.
Sure, yeah. So basically, I'd had a sort of a long-term contract with one agency where I was basically doing 3 or 4 days a week for them. I was with them for like 4 years. So I had a very sort of safe, secure contract, and I could have kept that going, but I basically took the decision at the start, right at the beginning of 2020, as in January, before any of the pandemic stuff happened, to step away from that agency and sort of broaden out a little bit. I found that I'd maybe got a little bit sort of stagnant. I think that sort of security blanket of a secure, of a safe contract is sometimes a blessing and sometimes a little bit of a curse, really. So I think I'd started to get a little bit too comfortable and a little bit too sort of, I wasn't really pushing any boundaries in the work that I was doing. So I made the decision to leave, gave sort of 3 months notice to finish at the end of April. And obviously in that period is basically where everything happened. So I found myself leaving at the end of April into a very different sort of, certainly from a, sort of economic world than what I'd envisaged was going to happen when I left. And I found that in the sort of midst of that sort of, first lockdown and sort of that height of the pandemic there, it was just very difficult to get in touch with clients. Also, all of the recruitment agencies that I'd sort of had a lot of kind of confidence that I'd be able to speak to, who work with freelancers and sort of, become basically the middlemen, they were all shut. So it basically meant that the immediate route to new work was closed to me at that time. And so sort of doing sort of cold introductions and stuff has never been something I've been good at. And I think because, again, where sort of I'd had that secure contract for so long, I didn't have any additional clients. I just didn't need them. 4 years working, getting enough work from one client, again, sort of leads to a little bit of complacency from my part in terms of I haven't needed to source new clients. So I just found myself in a position where I had no clients and no work on. And whilst I sort of tried a little bit of outreach and sort of got back in touch with former colleagues to see what they were at, it didn't kind of lead to anything. And sort of I started out quite calm, and that ended up a little bit panicked, I think, within a couple of months. And that's when we started.
Yes, I remember it well.
Yeah.
So just in terms of like, I guess the experience, the work that we did together, what was your overall experience and kind of a bit of insight into the results that we achieved, just in terms of the client relationships that you built, the kind of relationships, and also like the timeframes and ROI that you saw as a result of the work that we did?
Yeah, okay. So I think in terms of sort of the way we kind of operated and, basically what we did, that kind of campaign that we ran, was I knew, I knew what industry I wanted to continue to work in. That's where my experiences and most of my expertise is. So we had quite a refined search criteria that we were able to then sort of drill down into. I think, yeah. And so basically, I think where you sort of guided me and sort of like forced my hand a little, which, you know, in a supportive way, in terms of sort of, you enabled me to kind of push in terms of sort of those reaching out and sort of getting those contacts in directions that I normally find quite uncomfortable to do. So it was kind of a supportive push in that direction. And obviously kind of working with you sort of like did it for me, you know, did a lot of kind of that work, but it's also sort of a bit of a mindset shift for me that I've then been able to take forward. So there's sort of longer lasting results of the campaign, I suppose, from my point of view. So we probably, I think the first sort of messaging wave, as it were, so it was all on LinkedIn, and the first messaging wave, I think we started in mid-August. And some, you know, a little bit of kind of back and forth to keep kind of tweaking that filter a little bit. We started to get, you know, meetings and sort of conversations with people going, and I was arranging video calls with people probably within the first couple of weeks, which was great. I think what, in terms of my own expectations, which is good, is that it takes time to sort of nurture those relationships, was certainly one lesson. And I think where before kind of working with you, what I was trying is, I think I was expecting quicker results. So although the first conversations we were having were maybe by the end of August, I didn't get a sort of PO for any work from a client until mid-October. And actually the first client was one of the very first people that we spoke to. So that was good. Obviously, I was really grateful that happened, but also it was a good indicator for me that, you know, it's not a quick win. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're investing in a relationship, and you have to give yourself time to nurture that. But since then, you know, that's kind of followed pattern, and more clients have sort of come on board from sort of earlier conversations. And now I'm looking at, so, you know, having gone from 0 clients in mid-August, I've now got pushing probably like 10 fairly consistent, you know, some more consistent than others, but probably 10 clients that have all come off the back of that campaign, whether it's directly or I did a small job for someone and for example, I did a small job for one person that we met through the campaign, and they have now referred me to 2 additional clients, you know, just so that's word of mouth, but that has all stemmed from the campaign that we did. So you know, in terms of sort of return on investment perspective, yeah, I mean, it was 100% worth doing, because it's you know, I've now got ongoing work. I think for me, the kind of work that I do is, it's very much, I'm not looking for one-off project work. I'm looking for long-term clients and those, you know, long-term client relationships, which this is, you know, absolutely laid the foundations for and sort of set me up for as well.
Wicked, man. So in terms of that, you mentioned that mindset shift and stuff that you kind of are now applying forward in your own kind of approach. That was kind of going to be my next question, in terms of the key takeaways and things that you're still using today and how you're applying them today in your own outreach, in your own business growth and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me in terms of sort of the take homes, I guess, is that, you know, as a one-man band, you know, doing freelance graphic design, it's quite, you don't always think of yourself as a business. Do you know what I mean? It's quite an informal thing, and you are a person, you know, you are a human being, and you're selling, you know, for lack of a better term, you are selling yourself. And so it never really felt like I was running a business. It was more just sort of, I'm making introductions and it's leading to some revenue for me. But I think the mindset shift came where I actually, you know, working with you, I actually started to treat it as a business. So, you know, I sort of actually started to, you know, I've got I use essentially a sort of CRM now, where I kind of like, I track the conversations that I'm having with people and sort of try and set myself reminders to do that, which I wasn't really doing before. So I think it's, and I track my time and, all sorts of stuff, these kind of like much more business mentality things that I wasn't doing before, which I am now. And it's made a massive difference. And that then in sort of influences the conversations that you have with people as well. And you have this framework and a very sort of professional way in which you work, which then aids, you doing a good job with people. So I think definitely the biggest mindset shift was actually sort of seeing what I was doing as a business rather than as a casual freelancer trying to, make ends meet on what I was doing. So yeah, that was the biggest thing.
And the last question, I guess, is just who would you say what I do is a good fit for, if there was anyone thinking about working with me?
Yeah, so I think it needs to be somebody who at least kind of has done I think somebody who's maybe just starting out as a freelancer probably isn't the right person, because I think when before I sort of niched down in terms of the industry that I worked in, and maybe was a little bit more attuned to what my real strengths were in terms of skill set, I don't think I would have been ready to make the most of of this, and I think it wouldn't have really gone anywhere. So I think somebody who's at that stage where they've sort of niched down in terms of industry, or at least kind of very refined set of skills, and they know which industries they apply to, because you need to be able to filter that list down of all these people that you can reach out to. You need to sort of have a slightly narrower funnel. And I think those definitely from that perspective. And I think somebody who's ready to sort of maybe nervously almost ready and pretty much on the brink of taking that step where they're like, okay, making that shift to making a slightly more professional offering in terms of what they're doing. Maybe not quite there yet, but certainly aware they need to make that move in that direction. I think that's probably your sweet spot.
All right, brilliant, mate. Thank you very, very much for that.
No worries.
Awesome.
All right. Cheers, Will.
Cheers.